a free time.
Propane forge.
This is my propane forge build based on I like to make stuff build. The major differences between that version and this are that I mounted the corners mostly for aesthetic and practice purposes, and I mounted the burner from the top rather than from the sides. Another thing I'm trying with this build is using a 3D printed part to space the nozzle into the center of the air inlet to form the venturi. I'm not sure how well this is going to work. I've got some concerns about using a plastic part, something that might get hot. I'm hoping the propane flow will keep it cool though, so I guess we'll see. This is the burner assembly for the forge. This is the only thing that's really different about this from others that you see online is this 3D printed part I made. I'm tapping it here to put some set screws in, which will hold the nozzle in place inside the mixing tube. This nozzle assembly that I built used a .023 MIG tip, and then the calculations for the amount of airflow necessary were done based on that as well. So if using a different tip, that may throw off the air calculations, or it may not. I have no idea really. But, so these are the set screws. This then screws into the 1.25" adapter, and then the nozzle assembly is going to go in here. My understanding is you want the tip of the nozzle to be just at the beginning of the tightest part of the throat there. And then tighten up the set screws. They don't need to be super tight. This is, after all, just 3D printed plastic, and it's a pretty snug fit, so it's not really a problem. It stays pretty good on its own. And then mixing tube just screws in. And then I'm using this adapter 1 3/4 just for testing purposes. It won't be part of the actual final forge. So that's the burner assembly. This is a technique I've seen used in woodworking for aligning mitered corners, so I thought I'd give it a try with the metal frame here. It worked out pretty well. Confession time. I've edited this so it almost looks like I know what I'm doing with the welder. The reality is that this stick welder is brand new to me. The unit itself is like 60 years older or older, um, but I really struggled striking an arc with it. I think it may be because I'm running it off the generator, as I don't have a 220 outlet in the shop, but it was kind of a nightmare getting this welder to work for me. By this point, I was pretty fed up with the stick welder and decided to just use the flux core machine for the stand construction. And this is where I ran out of wire for the flux core machine. So back to the stick welder. I needed a way to attach the burner to the top of the forge, and I had this piece of 11 gauge steel left over from another project that I thought would be a good choice. It worked out pretty well. I'm happy with the result, but I ran into some trouble along the way. This is where I started having issues. This step drill I have is pretty old and I think it's dull, and it wasn't really cutting through this material. And then to make matters worse, the drill press broke. The return spring for the quill fell off on me. In the course of fixing that, though, I remembered I had this 1-inch twist drill, a Deming bit, that I'd used on something else. I decided to use it here, but it's a little bit terrifying. You can see it shaking the drill press pretty good. But it got the job done. I just tacked the top plate on. It's not structural, and I figure there's a pretty good chance I'm going to want to remove it in the future to upgrade. The same logic applies to this mounting flange, which is just a 3/4 inch flange that I drilled out to clear the pipe and then added a set screw to. This is my first attempt at lighting the forge, and it lights, but you can see that the flame quality is not very good. I keep getting this pulsing thing. I played with the pressures and it didn't seem to have any effect. I did a little bit more research and it looks like I do need that expander on the end of the burner in order to get a proper flame out of it. So I added it back and now I get proper flame out of it, but I don't like how far down into the forge it sticks. I then made the hole bigger with this rasp so the whole coupler would fit up inside it. Pretty sure I destroyed the rasp in the process though. So this is it with the modifications complete, and I have what appears to be a working forge. It's successfully heating up metal. I don't have a lot of experience with forges, so I'd appreciate any feedback people have that may have some experience with these kinds of things. During this brief test, the 3D printed part did just fine, but it's definitely something I'm going to have to keep an eye on long term. I'm a little worried about the conducted radiated heat after I turn it off causing a problem. While the propane's flowing, it seems to keep pretty cool.
Bye, thanks for watching.